Okay, so this is an interesting package from NZXT, and I'm actually really excited to unbox this thing. But before I get into that, I do want to quickly go over what exactly BLD is. It's essentially it's a short term for build in the first place, and number two, it's a pre-built custom gaming PC solution by NZXT that lets users configure their system within a certain budget. Now, personally speaking, I haven't configured a PC for myself online and have it shipped to me because for the majority of what I do at Hardware Canucks, I review computer components and I built PCs to showcase it for you guys. So NZXT reached out to us with an offer to have us build a PC online and experience their service. And for our awesome Canadian followers, BLD is now available in Canada, which is amazing. I want to take this time to thank NZXT for making part of this video possible. But why don't we go ahead and unbox this thing and check out what's inside, and you guys can take a look at the components that I've configured, which are actually kind of over the top, but yeah, let's check it out. All right, so NZXT's build service actually uses components that we all know, whether that's based off Intel or AMD's platform. And as I mentioned earlier, it actually allows users to configure and customize their PC from ground up, which is pretty cool. What's really interesting is as you're configuring your PC, NZXT starts the process with the option to choose 3 games that you play the most from a selection and your desired resolution. So in this case, we have 1080p and 1440p. Then it brings up the budget options upon which you can start configuring. You can either go with AMD or Intel, and it'll put together a build around that price point you've chosen. What's really cool about this configurator is that NZXT displays an estimated FPS readout you should be able to achieve with the PC within 10% accuracy. Now, they were able to do this by analyzing over 10 million hours of gameplay and counting data acquired through CAM software. And it helps them create a recommended engine, which helps them assess FPS metrics of the games you love with the components you choose. Now, customization doesn't end with just the components. They also take aesthetics into the equation. So you can choose a particular color for the case and add custom sleeve cables from CableMod. And if you want to add RGB lighting inside your PC, you can certainly add that option as well. Now, the warranty for systems configured and purchased through Build is 2 years for both USA and Canada. All components carry factory warranties too, but in this case, NZXT actually takes care of managing issues within their own warranty period. And I think that's pretty cool because it's supposed to be hassle-free and it gives you peace of mind. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is hop into letsbuild.com and configure my PC. I'm looking for something a little bit more understated. I love matte black, so if I can find anything matte black, I'm probably going to configure the system. I don't want to go with a lot of fancy color accents all over the place. Maybe add a little bit of RGB elements. Maybe the RAM modules can be RGB, the cooler can be RGB, and the graphics card. But other than that, I'm not really looking for light strips or anything like that around it, because I kind of want to make it look subtle, nice and sleek, but also perform like a champ. So I'm going to get started here, and as you can see, we do have a handful of titles to choose from. I play a lot of Battlefield 1. Overwatch is also something that I do play a lot, and then maybe Grand Theft 5. I'll choose my resolution, which is 1440p, because we kind of want to crush frame rates here. And for the budget, I'm gonna go all over the top here. I'm gonna choose Intel because I do intend to run maybe a little bit of video editing on this one as well. And the good thing about switching to an Intel platform or using an Intel platform is that Premiere actually supports hardware encoding with the new 8th-gen CPUs, or just Intel CPUs that have integrated graphics. So if you're looking to build a system that not only game, but also if you want to get into the content creation side, Intel is something that you should probably look into. Now, as you can see, the recommended engine has generated a build for around $2,500, but if you want to, if that's a little bit too much over your budget, you can obviously cycle between different price points that they have. So I guess, if you want to spend maybe $2,000, they do have a configuration for that as well. But I'm going to go top of the line here. So let's see what the highest spec here is. We have an H700 case with an 8700K, a Zotac gaming RTX 2080, which is actually not bad. We have 16 gigabytes of 3600 megahertz RGB memory and a Samsung 970 EVO 1TB drive. Looks great to me. And if you look at the frame rates, we're supposed to, or the estimated frame rates around 147 FPS with Battlefield 1 and 112 FPS with Overwatch. So we're definitely going to validate that when I put together or when I test the PC eventually. So let's go ahead and configure the system. Now, one of the good things about this configurator is you can obviously go in and you can you can configure it the way you like. So if you don't like a particular component, if you want to switch the cooler for maybe something like an AIO cooler, you can certainly do that as well. So if we go ahead and configure this PC, yeah, let's start with the case. I'm going to stick with the H700
case, which is good. Cooling wise, the Kraken X62 should get the job done. Now for the motherboard, I'm going to go with the ROG Maximus 10 Hero because I think it supports a little bit better overclocking with the 8700K. For the graphics card, we've got an RTX 2080 Amp Edition from Zotac, which is good. CPU of choice is the 8700K. As for the power supply, I'm going to go with Seasonic's Focus Plus 750 watt unit. Memory-wise, G.Skill's 16GB Trident Z RGB modules look great, and they're clocked at 3600 MHz. For storage, Samsung's 970 EVO 1TB NVMe SSD should be plenty to store both the OS and part of my game library, plus it's really fast. You can save some cost here and go with a SATA-based SSD and a higher capacity hard drive. Again, there are ways to cut down the cost if you so desire. The next thing is obviously colors, so that's the good thing that that's something that I really want to configure. So again, I wanted to go with the matte black finish, something that looks understated, so I'm going to choose the black option for the case. It looks pretty amazing already on the online configurator. And for the cable mod extension cables, it's an extra $35. I'm going to go with the black cables because they are sleeved and they look a lot better than stock PSU cables, so it's definitely worth the investment. Software-wise, we have Windows 10 Home pre-installed, and for services, there are two options here. So there's standard and there's a new option called Blitz mode. Now standard is the $99 BLD fee, which is the premium you pay the professionals to build and set the PC for you so that it's ready to go for gaming as soon as it arrives at your place. Blitz mode is a priority option that essentially ships the PC the same day you've placed the order, provided you do that before 11 AM PST, but it's an extra $100, so keep that in mind. And now taking a look at the final parts list, we're looking at a total cost of just a tad above $2,700. Now I did put together the exact same parts list on Newegg to see how much of a difference it is compared to NZXT's pre-built service, and the total cost comes to about $2,550. So the difference here is about $156, and remember, that includes the $99 BLD service. Do note that pricing fluctuates on a regular basis with most of the components, so the difference could either be lower or higher. And now that the build has arrived, let's go ahead and unbox it. And here it is, guys, the matte black build that I configured through NZXT's build website. Now, I'm actually really happy with the way how this turned out. The folks over at NZXT did a fantastic job managing the cables inside, and the cable on sleeve extension cables look fantastic. It looks so clean, especially with the cable combs. It just adds that extra touch when it comes to the aesthetics. It looks so clean and minimal. I love the way how it looks. The build arrived safely without any issues, and out of the box you do get some paperwork. First step being the warranty information with regards to the BLD service, and of course you do have the quick start guide that just essentially goes you through plugging things into the rear I/O of your PC, which should be pretty basic, but I mean, it's a nice gesture anyways. You also get the other accessories for the individual components, so whether that's extra cables for the power supply, the motherboard manual, the other little accessories that come with individual components are packed into this cool little Ziploc, so that's nice. Now the real surprise is behind the PC, and oh my god, I have a lot of notes to take from the folks over at NZXT. It just looks so satisfying to look at cables just routed perfectly through the appropriate routing points, and it just looks amazing. Nothing's really sticking out. Everything's just flushed really well. It's properly zip tied, and it just looks fantastic. Again, great job. I certainly have to take notes. Now you may be wondering who exactly might go for a pre-built system like NZXT's build service, and I think it really is geared towards newcomers who are trying to get into PC gaming, someone who just doesn't want to go through the process of building and troubleshooting individual components. And not to mention, if something goes wrong with the component, the process of getting that fixed would be a lot easier when you go through NZXT's warranty program rather than the separate individual OEM manufacturer. This would also be a great option if you're starting up a LAN center or something like that where you have to configure systems. With that being said, let's find out how this build performs. But before I get into that, I want to mention that I managed to overclock the 8700K to 5 GHz on all 6 cores.
So that's pretty amazing. But I do want to point out that you could use software tools like AI Suite 3 or the respective motherboard manufacturer tools to overclock the CPU. It necessarily wouldn't void the warranty, and NZXT clearly states that within their warranty guidelines. I wouldn't push the overclock to extreme, so that's something to keep in mind because that could potentially end up voiding your warranty. Starting off with Cinebench R15 at stock settings, we got a score of 1412 with the 5 GHz overclock. That bumped all the way up to 1630, which is quite amazing. Next up, we have Blender rendering the BMW scene, and at stock settings, the system took 5 minutes and 12 seconds to complete that task, and with the 5 GHz overclock, the system took 4 minutes and 47 seconds. Moving on to Adobe Media Encoder test, I took a 12-minute 4K project with GH5 footage, and I exported to the YouTube 4K preset using Adobe Media Encoder, and at stock settings, the system took 10 minutes and 51 seconds to complete that task. So that's less than a 1-to-1 ratio. Again, this is huge thanks to the optimized hardware encoding feature that was added to the Adobe suite. Now, overclocking the processor to 5 GHz didn't really yield a significant reduction in render times, but I'd still take that extra time saved any time of the day. Moving on to gaming performance, starting with 3D Mark Firestrike at stock settings, the system scored 22,516, and with the 5 GHz overclock, that bumped it up to 23,420. Battlefield 1 at 1440p set to ultra settings. At stock settings, we got way over 150 frames per second, and with the overclock, that obviously bumped it up to 160.7 frames per second. Overwatch at 1440p set to epic gave us 172.7 frames per second at stock settings, and with the overclock, it actually bumped it up just a little bit to 173.3. Doom at 1440p set to ultra settings using the Vulkan API didn't really yield us higher frame rates with the 5 GHz overclock, but still 186 to 187 frames per second is just fantastic performance. CPU temperatures were pretty good with this build. So at stock settings, the Kraken X62 cooled the 8700K at 32C idle and 75 degrees Celsius under load. But with the 5 GHz overclock, the CPU did get a little toasty at around 92C, and this is under a full 15-minute IDES64 FPU stress test. The GPU core clock speeds were surprisingly really good on the RTX 2080. The maximum that I was able to achieve was just a tad below 2 GHz, and the load temperatures on the RTX 2080 were around 65 degrees Celsius. That's very nice. Well, that about wraps up my experience using NZXT's build service. It's certainly something that's targeted towards a particular type of demographic, and what's really interesting is that they're using component pricing that's pretty much identical to what's available with online retailers like Amazon. The only thing you're really paying extra is for the $99 service fee or the $199 Blitz mode, which is just the priority shipping option. So again, it's all about convenience, and if you want everything ready for you just on the get-go, then this is something that you should probably look into. Let me know what you guys think about this matte black PC in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed my experience going through this pre-built system or configuring the whole process. But yeah, I'm Eber with Hardware Canucks. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out some relevant content over here. Subscribe to our new Boot Sequence channel for the latest tech news and rumors. I'm signing off, and I'll see you guys in the next one.